Welcome to the third part of this tutorial to not stay a beginner forever in AutoCAD. The list of contents is available in the description of the video if you want to have a look at it. For now, let's start. Attributes in blocks. To define an attribute, we can either click on this icon at the Home tab, or in the Insert tab, you can find it located in the Block Definition panel. Click on it, and the Attribute Definition window shows up on the screen. Then there are three main fields to fill for each attribute. First, we insert a tag, which is just used to indicate the position of the attribute. This text appears in capitals, and you can't put spaces between characters, so remember this. Below, you should type the prompt sentence. For example, if I want to fill with the name of the client, I type client name. On default, I will put a value that will appear anytime that I insert that attribute. Personally, I prefer to keep this empty, except it's an attribute that uses the same text often. However, let's insert a value here. On the text settings, it has the justification on the left and standard text style. Below on text height, I specify the same as the existing text. It was 3, and remember it's the paper height, so I don't put a tick in annotative. We click in OK, and we can specify the start point for our attribute. So now I can draw the next one, which I can repeat the process, or I could use a quicker way. With the command copy, I use the option array with 4 number of items. It's exactly what I did before. Then click here approximately to be in line with the text at the left. There are no object snap points for text objects. However, if you want to put the text perfectly in line, there are ways to do it. But it's something that we will learn later, don't worry. Then double click on the second tag, and this window shows up to modify the information that I had given before. When you are ready, click OK and do the same for the others. For the scale and date, I do the same in the attribute definition. But here the text height will be 2. Click OK and place the attribute where I want to show the scale. Then copy it below to make an attribute for the date and change the values. OK, now that the attributes are completed, it's time to create a block with the title block and the attributes. First, I need to switch to the layer 0. Now I'm going to create a block, and first I have to choose the name for the title. I put title block A2, so I know I have to use this block in an A2 paper. You can also create another title blocks for different papers. Click OK to select the objects, and now I have two options. Or I select all the attributes first, and then the remaining objects, or the inverse, first the normal objects and after the attributes. I decide to select first the attributes, but I still need to click on them in the order that I want to display. This is important. Now I select the remaining objects. I can cover all with a selection area, and don't worry that the attributes are inside because they are already selected. I press Enter to return to the block definition window, click OK, and the window to edit the attributes is now on the screen. And you can see them on the order that I choose. And now have a look to the window. On the left is what I inserted for the prompts. The values at the right are what I set for the default values. As you remember, I put some values there, but actually it was for you to have a look at the appearance of this. Actually, it would be better to not write anything on the default, because now I need to erase those blanks. So let's fill with the content that I need. Click OK, and you can see how the attributes are automatically displayed on the block. Then, in this case, the drawing name is too long to fit on the box. So, if I double click on the block itself, I can edit each attribute. And in this window, you can see that aside from the attribute values, I can also change text options and properties. Just look at the tabs here above. So I changed the drawing to ground floor plan. Now let's have a look at this example. In this level point, I want to put an attribute to indicate the elevation of a specific area of a plan. But this time I want to place the text at a certain position, and for that we have to draw temporary lines as reference. So I'm going to offset this line above to 100 millimeters. Then let's add an attribute here. Click on the icon. Then on the blanks, put the tag level. Next, I'm going to type insert level for the prompt. And don't write anything on default. Just leave it empty. On the text settings, change the justification to right. You will see after. And set the text height as 300. I do this because now we are at a model space and it will be basically the triple of the distance between both horizontal lines. Click on OK. Now I'm going to put the attribute in this corner and you can see it aligned to the right, like this exactly. So you can notice when you do this way, you put the text at a precise location. So I can now delete the extra line. And I'm going to use the command hatch. Let's see if you remember it. Type H and press enter. Then I go up here and select solid. Change the color of the hatch to by block, as we are going to make a block of all these objects to later edit the color of the hatch if we need. Then click on these 2/4 parts of the circle. Press enter to finish. Now I'm going to convert this to a block. Click on create a block. Then type the name, level point. Select the objects. First I click on the attribute, then on the remaining objects. Press enter again. Click on OK. Select the base point. And finally it asks to edit the only attribute that this block has. I type plus 1.2 and click on OK, and you can see the block updated. Now I can change to the layer that I want, and the colors of the hatch objects, as I set before as by block, they get the colors that I specify here at the object's color. How to edit an attribute in a block. When I double click in a block reference, I can edit their attributes, but be aware that this only applies to that object. So, on text options, I change the height to 200, and you can see that it updates the size of the level number. However, if I insert another block reference of the same block, let's put here 0 for example, you can see that it still keeps the previous text height. So, how could I edit the attribute inside the block? In a way, it would update all the block references. It's like this. Go to the block attribute manager, which is the icon located here. Then, in this window, I need to select the attribute I want to modify. And as you can see, they are grouped by blocks. I click on the level attribute, go to edit, and any change that I made here applies to all the block references. So if I change the text to 200, you can see that it applies to all. Dynamic blocks. This is a block reference of a window projection in a floor plan. If I click on it, I can see the base point along with other groups created by me. The one at the right is an added parameter to change the length. It's very useful because now I just type the value for a new length. When I double click to edit the block, I can see that there is this symbol here, meaning that the block is dynamic. In other words, it has parameters with actions associated. So let's start from the beginning. For adding a new parameter, we need to use the block authorities palette. If you can't see it on the screen, you can enable it in this button here. I'm going to use a linear parameter for the distance. I click in the start point and then on the end point. This distance by itself doesn't do anything because I need to set an action. And as what I want to do here is stretching the window, I'm going to use stretch. First, I need to select the parameter, then the action point, this one. I specify the stretch frame, it's the area that I want to stretch. Then I select the objects, press enter, I close the block and save changes, and now you can see how I can change the length. It's simple. So it's recommended to select the action on the other side of the base point, otherwise they would overlap each other. Let's go to the next example. Here I'm going to show you another parameter, flip, and that's what I have in this door. I can flip the opening by just clicking in these buttons. Open the block editor, and then I'm going to start with this one in the middle. I click on flip, and the reflection line will be in the middle distance between frames. I could draw a line here to use the midpoint, but let's do something we learned earlier in this tutorial. Click with the right button, go to Object Snap Overrides, and then click on Mid between 2 points. Select these two, and then I can make the vertical reflection line here. Then I need an action to that parameter. And instead of going to the Actions tab, I can also click in the exclamation point to add an action. And then for the objects, I select the line and the arc. So if I close the block editor, I can see the result. Then let's add another flip, but this time to switch the door down here. This time I go to Action, I click on Flip, select the flip state 2. This time I need to select everything. And if I close the block, you can see I have a new flip to the other side. In this door, there is also a stretch action to adapt the frame to different wall widths. So let's add it. It's again the linear parameter. Choose the 2 points of the dimension line, then double click in this yellow symbol. Remember that when it shows up on the screen, it means there are no actions associated yet. There are 4 possibilities to linear parameters, so we add the stretch, then select the stretch frame, and I need to cover all this part, and for the objects, I select those here and also at the left. I press enter, then I have to close the block editor, and you can see again the result of stretching a part of a block. The parameter alignment. This parameter can be useful to align a block along a line. For example, for electrical circuits, we want to align a socket automatically along a polyline. So let's see, and this parameter is actually very simple. We click on alignment, set the base point of alignment, which I want it to be here, in the middle. Then I need the direction of alignment, which is along this direction. Close the block to return to the main workspace. Then select the socket. Click on the alignment point, which is easy to recognize as it has a different shape, and move it to the polyline. Simple. Then there are some important tips you should know. I recommend you to have the mode nearest active, so you can put the block in any position of the polyline. If your object snap is off, the alignment will not work. Another tip is that the alignment will be to the other side of where you have the pointer. For example, if the pointer is just a little bit above the line, the alignment faces down. However, if you have the pointer down the line, the block is placed on the other side. I know that this is a bit tricky, but for that reason, we can also add flip states to the block to switch the direction easily. But as we all already know, the things are never perfect in AutoCAD. At least that's our beliefs, especially when the things are not working as we desire. For example, if you have text in a block and then you want to align it here, it's alright. But if it aligns to the opposite direction, you notice that everything is flipped over, including the text. So in the case you want this socket to face the inner side of the polyline, the best is to place the block in this side and then use the grip to flip the direction. Yes, but make sure you don't have the system variable to mirror the text active. I mean, if you type mirror text in the command line, you can switch to 1 and then the text is also mirrored. Basically, if you don't want to mirror text, keep it 0. Visibility. This parameter is used to make variations on objects in a block and then display a list with different options to choose. I show to you this socket as an example. So I'm going to convert a switch to a block. And first I'm going to draw a line here to use the midpoint as my base point. Then I turn on the command block, choose a name, select the objects except the line I have just drawn, and finally specify the base point. So I converted the switch to a block. Now let's go to the block editor. And here I'm going to add a visibility parameter. I can just put it wherever I want, because its location doesn't affect the performance of the objects. Also, the visibility works with visibility states, which is a bit different than for the other parameters. If I double click here, it opens the window to manage those states. I can also access it in this button at the visibility panel. Let's continue. First, I can rename this current visibility state, type socket1. Then, let's create a new one, socket2, and click on OK. Close the window. You can see that here I have the socket 2, and as this state has exactly these objects, I leave it unchanged. Then I switch to socket 1, and here I don't want to show up the number 2. Click on it, and then press this button at the visibility panel to make it invisible. Very good. Now I go back to the visibility state window and add a new state called socket 3. If you look at the bottom of this window, there are 3 options here. And now I tick the third option, and this new state will be a copy of the current status, which is socket 1. So I'm going to add a hatch object here. And first I draw a line. Then I activate hatch and fill all this area. I also want to change the pattern to a solid color and then fill the area here. And now that I am done, I press enter. Important: when you draw new objects here, they only go to the current status. For example, if I switch to the socket 1 or socket 2, you can see that there is no hatch there. On the visibility panel, there is an icon, it's actually a system variable, to control how the invisible objects are shown. In the current mode, the invisible objects are transparent, so you can notice them. However, if you click in that button, you choose to not see them. So it's everything in this part 3. Thank you very much for watching, and now I want to say that if you reached until here, it probably means you are enjoying this course, which I am glad if that is what happens. So in the part 4 we will discuss more important tips in AutoCAD. See you!